Now there is a name that has popped out in the last 4 days. I think he fired on Christmas, which is just the worst thing to do. The day after Christmas, like that is just the worst thing to do. Nathaniel Hackett hit the market, fired from Denver. I mean, you don't even know like where to approach this conversation, because there's 3 ways. There's should the Steelers consider him? I don't know. Is he damaged goods after Denver? I don't know. Is the Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams effect that real that you have to completely ignore what he did in Green Bay? I don't know. So let's start with the damaged goods. If you're looking at Nathaniel Hackett right now, lasted 15 games in Denver as a head coach. In that time frame, had to give up play calling because that's how bad he was at it. Russell Wilson and that team is, I mean, way worse than anybody could have ever predicted in their entire life. Do you blame that on him? And are you looking at him going, yeah, he's probably not getting a job next season?
I don't think he's getting an offensive coordinator job anywhere next season. That's not to say he'll never get back to that point, but I can't imagine anyone would hitch their wagon to that after what's happened in Denver this year. And it's just like, I don't know, at a certain point when you surround yourself with that much talent and put up those kind of results, you don't have to do much digging and you don't have to think very hard. It's especially because I don't know, this guy has really cut his teeth in like as far as his coaching resume in college. It hasn't been really a lot of significant work at the NFL level. Like, yeah, the Packers, but that was 2 years with, again, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones at his peak. Like, there was a lot working for him up in Green Bay. So I feel like he's got to go prove himself somewhere else, like maybe in I don't know what his background. I can't remember what kind of position coach experience he has, but he's got to show me something as a quarterbacks coach or as a offensive line or something like that before I think I would have any faith. Especially like if we're thinking about it within the context of the Steelers, this is a delicate. If you're firing Matt Canada, that's a delicate transition to handle. You can't take any chances on that. Like that when you're talking about taking chances on a guy over Matt Canada, this is not the guy that you should take a chance on.
What is your standard of taking a chance? Like, is it a new offensive coordinator? Like somebody who's worked well with quarterbacks, somebody from the college level. I mean, Kliff Kingsbury, I feel like would lead any list just because of who he is and what he's done. But like, what's your standard? Like, where's your, okay, this is like a safe zone. This is where I'm able to take a risk.
In this situation, I would have a very low tolerance for risk. Like, it's got to be someone with NFL experience. Not just NFL experience, but good NFL experience. Like someone who you can point to and say they've developed this, that, and this guy and that guy, and they've had some experience with. They've had some continuity in whatever job they were in. They weren't just in one or two places for 1 or 2 years. That they stuck around somewhere and that they were able to follow someone's development and say, because that's the key here is like, you got a really young team, you have to be able to develop them. Like that's Kenny Pickett's development is the end all be all for this team. And so whoever you hire next can't just be a good play caller and a flashy play designer. He's got to be able to bring young players up to speed and get them into the prime of their career.
How short is your list right now? Like if you had to, I know that you don't have a list in front of you, but like if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're looking for a new AC this offseason, are you just like, okay, they have to be in the NFL. They have to be working with quarterbacks already. Possibly like, I don't know, wide receiver coaches somehow do their thing well as well. Mm-hmm. Offensive line coaches sometimes do, but sometimes they don't. Mike Munchak is, I think, a prime example of that. Do you just look at NFL quarterback coaches and say, okay, we're picking from those outside, like say Kliff Kingsbury keeps his job, there's no like crazy name out there. Is that as far as you're going?
Yeah, I think so. I like You raise an interesting point about wide receiver coaches. I think that's definitely something that could work too. But when one of your first round picks from the past 2 years is a running back too, I think you got to think about that too. So I wouldn't want to be so passing game centric.
What if
Yeah, but
Ben came back?
oh
What if Ben
God,
called you and said, "Hey, I'll come back. I'll work with Kenny." It's not. He's
he
not
can be
going
like
to. But what if he did?
he can be an assistant quarterbacks coach or something, but like be serious. Like I would tell him like be serious, man. Like no, like thanks for the memories, but like no, you have not coached at this level. Again, like you can't take a chance on this, and hiring Ben in that kind of role would be taking a huge chance. And what's Ben going to tell Ken? Honestly, like imagine Ben as a coach. Like
I
there was one
can't.
time when I was not a very good high school football player at all, and there was a guy, the starting quarterback on our football team was really good. He ended up playing in college, but the first year I started playing quarterbacks, I didn't start playing until my sophomore year. We're throwing out routes or whatever, and I make a throw or whatever, and he's like, "Yeah, that was good. Just try to throw it like a little harder." And I was like, I don't know. I'm some 140-pound like high school sophomore, and I'm like, yeah, if I could have, I would have. And I feel like
Yeah,
Ben's gonna be kind of the same way. Like, just do it, man. Like an MJ kind of like
yeah.
he's not
Like
MJ, but like
Steph Curry trying to teach somebody how to shoot threes. It's just like
right,
just make it. It's just like I don't know how to make it. What are you talking about? I have no idea how to
right.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I mean, not knowing Ben like personally, that feels like exactly how he would coach, and I don't think that's what Kenny Pickett needs.
No, I agree. I agree. I think it would be interesting. I would very much so enjoy it. Don't get it wrong. Like if they made that decision, me and my standpoint in all of this would be like this is going to be a very fun year. Very excited to see what happens. Do I think it would
Mhm.
work? No, I don't think it would work at all. What about Frank Reich? His name was out there a while ago. I pushed heavy for Frank Reich. I think he's good. He's a good coach. I think he's a good offensive coordinator too. But people do not like him because he's had a bad time in Indianapolis working with 75-year-old quarterbacks and Carson
Right.
Wentz. So
Yeah, I like Frank Reich. I think we brought him up. You brought him
we
up,
did bring
and we
him up.
talked about him. And we talked about him. I would be happy with that. That seems like a very not safe but reliable. Like I think you know what you're going to get out of Frank Reich. And also, man, it seems like the longer the Colts season goes on, the more you kind of feel like he got screwed a little bit.
Oh, he got screwed over. 100% he
Yeah,
got screwed. They needed a scapegoat for the fact that their GM refused to go get a quarterback that was good or you could develop, and then was like, okay, well, Jonathan Taylor will just win us all of our football games. On top of the fact that their best defensive guy in Shaq Leonard has missed 95% of the season, and Quentin Nelson, who 365 days ago was the greatest offensive lineman of all time, is in the middle of the worst season he's had and an offensive line that stinks. So, and Michael Pittman Jr. is your only wide receiver option. So it's bad. It's a bad situation to be in.
yeah.
I think he got gypped. So before we end this conversation, is Kliff Kingsbury hits the open market? Is he, no matter what, your top option for the Steelers, and why?
I think so. Um, just he has a history. He can kind of. We talked about this at the top, but like it would be a breath of fresh air for offenses that have been kind of stale, quite frankly. Um,
Yeah.
I think he knows how to. He has a reputation as a guy who's like a spread offense. Like I don't know, there are all types of connotations that come with being a guy who runs a fast offense and can spread people out and get people open. But he's been able to. They've been able to give running backs good seasons too. Like James Conner's like had a complete rebirth, like renaissance in Arizona. Benjamin was even really productive there while Connor was hurt. Like
Yep.
there's a lot to like about how he's run his offenses, not just what he's been able to incorporate into the passing game.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people are going to be real hard on him to be like, oh, it's a different situation, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think that sometimes a different situation like calms people down from being too extreme in what they're trying to do. Like I think Kliff Kingsbury has so much speed and so many weapons and such a versatile quarterback that like he's trying to reinvent the wheel over there. And sometimes you just got to take what you're really good at and say, okay, here it is. Let's
Mhm.
lay it out. Let's calm it
Absolutely.
down. yeah, and go from there.